3280. 800-457-3280.
Sports, AM1280.com. Keyword deals.
With the couple's newborn baby True, but Thompson staying elsewhere. He allegedly visits her, but he and Kardashian said to be barely speaking with one another. The Cleveland Cavs player was caught on security camera footage taking another woman back to his New York City hotel room while the team was in the city for a game. Nicki Minaj is said to be the musical guest on the May 19th season finale of NBC's Saturday Night Live. The network announcing the episode will be hosted by SNL alum Tina Fey. For Minaj, it will be her third appearance as musical guest on the show. These dreams go on and close my eyes. Nancy Wilson is not ready to give up on reuniting with her sister Ann to once again perform as Hart. Nancy tweeting fans hope that the sisters can work out their differences. Hart's last live appearance was in 2016. The 8th season of the Showtime series Homeland will be the last. The show's star Claire Danes revealing the news during a Sirius XM radio show. She said she's conflicted about it but ready. Danes also said that a recently announced pregnancy will not get in the way of filming season 8, expected to air sometime next year. That's entertainment. Jennifer Pilsoni, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Holder, live at you on Friday, April 20th, coming to you from the iHeart Studios in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana, the greatest city on the planet and a basketball town once again. The New Orleans Pelicans last night, Clyde and I were late night, in the Smoothie King Center. You later than I think I left after midnight. I don't know what time you left, but
I left at 1.
Wow. Yeah, these late night games are killing me. Even here in New Orleans, we had a late night game. But it was all worthwhile for the Pelicans fans that showed up in the sellout crowd. Pels go up 3-0 in the series with the Portland Trail Blazers and are in firm control of that series. And we're going to talk about it throughout the day here on Dunc and Holder. The first hour is going to be all Pelicans all the time. And we've got a great lineup, as you can tell by me driving the show today, that Sir Lawrence, my co-host, our cohort in crime, Larry Holder, is off today. So it's Clyde and Dave DeCorbier and myself guiding the ship. And we're going to have a great show. We've got a great lineup. Matt Moore from the Hardwood Paroxysm.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I am so stoked.
Why are you so into this?
I mean, easily one of the most, and I mean, this is going back to the early days of Twitter, but easily one of the most knowledgeable minds about all the NBA, about the game. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about the series. I mean, I know a lot of people are shocked, but I really think that this is going to be one of the best interviews that we've had outside of our own guys. It's going to be because it's going to be an outside perspective, because we see it every day, but obviously to have guys who cover the NBA who understand it, I think, on a different level to really expound on how this series has gone. I cannot wait, because he is a great mind on basketball, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about the series.
And Matt Moore will be on at 10:20, so that'll be right after our first break in the first hour. And then we're going to go to Fletcher Mackel at 10:45, the sports director at WDSU-TV. Fletcher, of course, follows the Pelicans heavily and was out in Portland for the first two games of this series. So we'll get Fletcher's thoughts on the Pels, and then we'll turn our attention in hour two to the New Orleans Saints. Some news breaking today that Willie Snead has now received a contract offer from the Baltimore Ravens. It's a pretty significant offer, 2 years. What was that, Clyde? 2 years, like 10 million?
2 years, $10.4 million.
2 years, $10.4 million. He's a restricted free agent, and this is almost a mirror situation to the Cam Meredith deal that the Saints were able to procure Cam Meredith from the Bears with the 2-year, roughly same amount of money, about $10 million. And now the Ravens are doing the same, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the New Orleans Saints to match that. I don't even know if they'll have any interest in matching it because they've already invested in Cam Meredith as their number 3 receiver. So we'll talk to Mike Triplett, a good friend of the program, former colleague, ESPN now. Mike was actually in the house last night at the Smoothie King Center. That might have been a first for Tripp. We'll talk to him about the development with Willie Snead and also the Saints schedule, which, of course, dropped last night. Pretty exciting schedule if you're a Saints fan. 5 primetime games. And I think that's representative of the increased profile, the raised profile of the New Orleans Saints. A year ago, they had 1 primetime game. Now they have 5. And I think it's reflective of the young stars on the roster, the Mike Thomases, the Alvin Kamaras, obviously Cam Jordan and Drew Brees. But they have become a very popular team nationwide once again, and America wants them on national TV. So we'll go down game by game and look at those matchups. Which ones concern you the most? Which ones you're most excited about? Because there's a lot to be excited about on this schedule. I think it's one of the better schedules the Saints have had, not only from a fan viewing standpoint, but also I think it manifests itself potentially into a very quick start and I think a strong finish by the way the schedule's laid out. So we'll talk about that. If you want to join the program, we'd love to hear your thoughts. 504-260-1280 is the number to dial. And we'll talk about Pelicans here early on, and then we'll shift gears to the Saints in the second hour. So, Clyde, real quick, what was your thoughts last night as you watched the Pelicans kind of take apart the Blazers right from the opening tip?
Well, I think the first thing I thought about was I looked around at everybody else in our area in the press box last night, and I wondered if I had misread the definition of desperate. I thought that desperate meant that you had an air about you as a person or as a group to say that you're going to throw caution to the wind and that you're going to be able to come out guns blazing and you're not going to allow your past to define what has happened to you up until that point. And clearly and thoroughly, we were all wrong because there is no desperation in this Portland team whatsoever. If anything, this Portland team is desperate for the season to be over. And we saw that within the first 7 minutes of the game last night. And I'll tell you what, regardless of what we've thought about how the Pelicans have gone on this stretch, which is now run up to 8 straight wins now since the end of the season, this Pelicans team is different. This Pelicans team has a chip on its shoulder. It's got a swagger. It's got a attitude that I am thoroughly enjoying and loving right now, because right now Portland could not have gotten into a worse mismatch of a series if they literally tried. And for them, I think the biggest thing for me is I am just so surprised because all we heard from the end of the game into game 2 a few days ago up until yesterday was this team was desperate. Portland was desperate. They were going to come out. They're going to play differently. They were going to have new starters. We talked about it yesterday. I said the biggest thing I thought would change yesterday would be that Mo Harkless would start, and he did start, but that didn't do a lick of good for them anyway. The Pelicans were dominant from the tip, and it's just so – it still surprises to me. It's not that I didn't think the Pelicans had a great shot to win the series, but to be as dominant as they have been, and to now they are taking up the national conscience of the NBA in this playoff series. I'm fully aware now that I think to talk about the rest of the series, you're either talking about LeBron himself or you're talking about the Pelicans. That's it. Even if you are in another NBA city where you have a series going on, the Pelicans are dominating the conversation. I think rightfully so. This team is playing on all cylinders. They're playing with an absolute desire of of wanting to win and just playing just with so much almost carefree. I mean, you look at Rondo last night. He feels like he looks like he's almost like 5 years in, not 10 plus years in. Anthony Davis has clearly a quiet drive and desire. And his comments last night at the end of the game reflected that about remembering the last time they were in the playoffs against Golden State and they had that big lead in Game 3 and how that was in the back of his mind the entire game, about how he did not want to let that lead slip again. That's huge too. Nikola Mirotic basically throwing off the albatross, his pass, come out and score 30. I just am absolutely loving where the Pelicans are right now, and I'm loving the fact that after that atmosphere that we saw last night, I tweeted it specifically. So, spoiler alert, I run some of our Twitter accounts, Twitter and Facebook accounts. But, I mean, after seeing the Smoothie King Center the way it was last night, decked out in all red, sold out to the brim, New Orleans is a basketball city. There's no question about it. There's no more debate. New Orleans, you are a basketball town now. You are a basketball town as well. So get used to it, because right now we could be on the cusp of something great.
Game 4 is Saturday, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
At the Smoothie King Center. The Pelicans have a chance to accomplish a couple things with a win. They'd win their second playoff series in franchise history since the team moved here to New Orleans in 2002. That's significant on its own. But in addition, they would become the first NBA team, I should say the first number 6 seed, to sweep a 7-game series, first-round 7-game series, since the league went to a first-round 7-game playoff format in 2002. That just shows you how rare what we're seeing is. Now, I think a caveat to that is, of all years, this year, the difference between the 3rd seed and the 8th seed in the West is about 1 game.
Yeah.
So there's not much difference, and I think we can see, as you pointed out, the Pelicans are just a better team. I mean, sometimes in this business we like to look at intangible factors, and I agree with you. The team's playing with confidence and conviction, and that's a very potent combination right now. They are hungry, and you can see it in their eyes, in the swagger they walk with. But more than anything else, this is just a case of the Pelicans are better. I mean, they know it. The Blazers know it, and their body language tells you that. I mean, the Blazers know they're not as good, and so they've tried all the adjusting and everything they can, but there's only so much adjusting you can do when you've got Nurkic trying to guard Anthony Davis. I mean, it's such a mismatch. It's almost embarrassing, and so they have to take Nurkic out, and they go small, and then it's just a gross mismatch in talent and the way the teams are playing right now. So I think they're going to wrap this thing up pretty quickly in Game 4 and move on to probably the Golden State Warriors, who also are up 3-0 now in their series with the San Antonio Spurs. And look, the dynamic will change dramatically. When you play the defending NBA champs, it's going to change because they're not going to be out of sorts. I mean, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, the Pelicans have gotten in their heads so much they look terrible.
Yeah.
They just look bad. I mean, They look out of whack. They don't know. They can't hit open shots now, and then they're driving into traffic and turning the ball over. And Terry Stotts, the Blazers coach last night after the game, said he was seeing turnovers that he's never seen before. It was inexplicable to him as a head coach. And I agree. At one point, I think it was Damian Lillard right in front of the Blazers bench just dribbled the ball out of bounds. There was no one even guarding him, really.
Yeah, no one within like at least 3 feet of him, and just out of bounds, Pelicans ball. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And that's the crowd getting in. That's the crowd getting in somebody's head, man.
Crowd was great last night. Players for both teams said as much. Pelicans players are trying to keep that going. And I agree with you. I think we're finally seeing New Orleans kind of flip its switch and become a basketball town. And you knew it could happen once they bought in. And I think it took a while to buy in, rightfully so. The teams have been inconsistent. But last night was an electric environment, and they'll need that going forward. I think everybody agrees this series should be in the Pelicans' bag. But against the Warriors, a battle-tested team that's won a lot of big games, they're not going to be intimidated by a loud environment. It's going to take the Pelicans executing the way they're executing right now, I think, to knock them off.
And 2 things, Jeff, really quickly. 127-0, that's the number. That's the record of teams who go up 3-0 in the series. So you can pretty much almost put this in the bag. And the second thing about that is, you're right. It looks like, for all intents and purposes, we are on a collision course in the semifinals, the West Conference semifinals with Golden State. But after seeing Golden State last night, and after seeing some of the stories, and I know that it's still early, and I know that it's still a lot can happen between now and then, the Warriors have some questions to answer. And specifically, you had Kevin Durant tweaking ankle. You had a report from Yahoo last night that came out that said that Steph Curry still hasn't been fully cleared to participate yet. You had a couple other guys get nicked up, and right now it's like Klay Thompson. And again, you have to, not that you have to give a caveat to this series, but unfortunately for San Antonio, literally San Antonio is just in an unfortunate situation, obviously, with the passing of Greg Popovich's wife. He did not coach last night. Obviously, his situation is TBD for the rest of the series. Obviously, Golden State's up 3-0 right now. And then no Kawhi Leonard and having that cloud basically sit over the Spurs for the entire length of the season and now into the playoffs and what looks like it's going to be a very ugly divorce this offseason. The Spurs, unfortunately, have had just a really a run of bad luck. That's all I can say, with just so many unfortunate events happening to them. But Golden State, it's not unprecedented. It's not unprecedented for a 2 seed to get to the second round, maybe a little shaky and not necessarily play as well. And I think if you're the Pelicans right now, you're going into this last game on Saturday, and you're looking at whatever date the series starts for the semis. You're going to be feeling really good, man. Like you have a real puncher's chance.
I agree. I think they've got a great shot, especially if Steph Curry is still out. That always helps, having the former MVP not in the lineup. All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk to Matt Moore of the Hardwood Paroxysm about this stunning development in the Blazers-Pelican series. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
4 wheels shut off the lights and tore through a cornfield. What was I thinking? Out the other
Josh and his show Listener Bingo Board.
Some of the squares include Trump joins the show.
Trump does join the show a lot.
My dad, the term insufferable. Oh, a sentence that starts with when I was in Philly.
Boy. This guy really pays attention to the show.
Josh Shinnis, mornings 6 to 10 on Sports 1280.
Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town. Fresh Louisiana seafood as well as delicious Italian dishes. Try our daily chef specials or an overstuffed po' boy. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. with 2 locations to serve you. In Bucktown at 1001 Live Oak between Bonneville and Lake Avenue, or in Kenner at 910 West Esplanade at Chateau Boulevard. Let Mr. Ed's cater your next event. Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant. 2 great locations, 1 great menu. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, now open in the quarter 7 days a week at 512 Bienville.
Aging gracefully isn't easy. Low T, thyroid issues, and weight gain all conspire against you. Enter Vitality Wellness Group. Vitality Wellness doctors are experts in hormone therapy, ED, and a host of aging issues. Call 504-309-4172 or visit NOLA.HRT.com.
Big numbers coming from Amazon. The tech giant has announced more than 100 million paying customers have signed up for Amazon Prime, the delivery and content business that's at the heart of its sales growth. The number tops recent analyst estimates. Well, Facebook is jumping on the bandwagon of designing its own chips. Apple and Google already do it. It requires the companies to use educated teams of engineers. No public news on the move. However, a new job listing on the company's careers portal suggests it's happening. And Walmart parking lots will begin to look a little different. This on the heels of news that Walmart parking lots are about to get a whole lot more friendly for electric vehicles. Volkswagen subsidiary Electrify America on Wednesday announced plans to install EV chargers at more than 100 Walmart locations across 34 states by June of 2019. So, what will this move do? It will more than double the number of EV charging stations at Walmart stores. Tech Update, Mike Moore, NBC News Radio.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Free Movie Friday with Adam Tickets is back. Text LIFT, ATOM, the number 1 for your chance to win free movie tickets. The Adam Tickets app lets you skip the lines. Browse movie titles, buy tickets, invite friends, and pre-order concessions all from your phone. Standard data and text message rates may apply.
She takes my blues away. Sweet Maria.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back on a beautiful Country Fried Friday here in New Orleans. Dunc and Holder, Clyde Berdan, Dave DeCorbet. Larry's off today. Hopefully he's enjoying a nice 3-day weekend here because it is a beautiful one in New Orleans. And we're pleased to be joined by Matt Moore of the Hardwood Paroxysm. That's at HP. Was it HP Basketball?
HP Basketball on Twitter.
Basketball. Matt, welcome into the program. And I got to get your thoughts right off the bat. Clyde and I were both in the arena last night for that takedown of the Blazers, and I'm kind of stunned. I have to admit, I thought the Blazers, had a chance to get upset in this series as the 3 seed, but I didn't expect this total domination that we're seeing by the Pelicans. What are your thoughts on it so far as it's played out?
Yeah, I like them coming in. I picked them in the series. One of the rare thing I get right in terms of the playoffs and picking these kind of matchups. it was just apparent when you went back and watched the regular season matchups how much the Blazers were going to struggle with specific things that the Pelicans bring to the table. Long, athletic guards that can score off of the pick and roll. Anthony Davis being basically Godzilla mixed with some sort of nuclear explosion. The way that they are able to push the tempo and really kind of dictate pace to the Blazers, which want to play slow but aren't great at that, and how limited the Blazers' offense was. There was this uptick in the Blazers' offense late in the season that I never really bought in. But the most impressive thing, I think, is that the Pelicans came into this series and they didn't settle in. We're seeing this in a lot of these different series. The difference is not so much the X's and O's, it's approach and discipline. And the Pelicans, even though they're playing fast, they're disciplined with their game plan. They know what advantages they have, and they are attacking them on both ends of the floor every single time down. And that's a real credit, I think, to Alvin Gentry.
And, the addition of Nico Mirotic, I don't think can be understated to this team. I mean, they were in a desperate shape there after losing DeMarcus Cousins. They'd lost at home to the Kings in a decidedly lopsided game at home. And they ended up getting Mirotic on, and he struggled a little bit, but he has found his groove. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on what he's brought to the table there. I hate that cliche, but it's pretty obvious that he opens things up for not only Anthony Davis, but also Drew Holiday, Rajon Rondo. It just seems like with him playing at the level he's playing at right now, they're a very difficult team to guard.
Yeah, so I've always been a Mirotic skeptic. He's labeled as a shooter, but he would shoot like 32% from three. He was labeled as a defensive player, but he never really made a sizable impact there. His net rating on versus off court was always poor. He's been incredible in this series. And, shooting the ball has been great and spaces the floor, and he's made some just huge shots that have demoralized Portland. But what he's brought on the defensive end, and particularly rebounding, which enables them to get out in the open and push the pace that they do, because Mirotic is always looking up the floor, has been just huge. He is snatching rebounds away from big physical defenders like Ed Davis and Yusuf Nurkic. He's grabbing those rebounds and getting the ball up the floor, and it's really been impressive to watch. I think that he's been, for all the things that we knew coming in that the Pelicans were going to have advantages in, he was one where you couldn't really count on him, and him stepping up, I think, is why this series has tilted from the Pelicans have a real chance to win to they are dominating them, and Portland honestly has very little hope at this point.
Matt, and speaking of just kind of that play, I think obviously for a lot of people watching, or at least most fans watching the series or watching the 4 games in the regular season, it was going to be the Pelicans versus the kind of two-headed guard monster of C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. I want to get your thoughts on both sides of the coin, specifically with how Dame and C.J. McCollum have looked comparatively to the guard combo of Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo, and or #playoff Rondo has come out and has absolutely dominated the series from their positions on the court. So can you talk a little bit about just how strange, or the dichotomy of watching a veteran like Rondo and Drew Holiday pretty much almost coming out party to the national conscience, as opposed to the guards that we were supposed to thought that would have a good series in C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard? I'm
so thrilled for Drew Holiday. Just everyone in the league that I talked to is just thrilled that we're seeing this from this kid. I mean, it's just great to see a guy, after everything that he's been through, put in this kind of performance that a lot of people in the league knew he was capable of. The way that he has attacked them on ball, I think, has really spooked them. The size is really the biggest difference here. They have big guards that can guard them in 2-on-2 pick-and-roll coverage because you're not worried about the lob because you have Anthony Davis to disrupt that. You have this big shot blocker behind you. So you're able to be hyper-aggressive and really dog them. On the other end, they can't disrupt them at all. A lot of this is the Blazers pick-and-roll scheme. They have created a system to specifically kind of cover for Yusuf Nurkic. They don't switch. They drop every single time, and they keep their shooters home. Well, the problem is Drew Holiday is so good off of the dribble, both at getting to the rim and with his jumper. So is Ian Clark. And honestly, Rajon Rondo is so patient with how he manipulates space that is absolutely cooking Portland. And they don't really have an answer because they don't have enough size to disrupt those kind of shots. And that's caused a lot of issues. They started to help off more in these last couple of games, being like, all right, we have to make an adjustment. Let's start bringing up help. Well, guess what? That's opened up things for Nikola Mirotic. That's opened up more things for Anthony Davis. There's no real answer there because all year long, everyone's kind of baffled by how Portland went from a bottom 5 defense the last 2 seasons for the top 5 this year, and we're seeing kind of that regression come in hard because they just simply do not have the size and athleticism to handle it when teams are constantly attacking small guards.
We're talking to Matt Moore, NBA writer for Action Network HQ, and you can find him at HP Basketball on Twitter. He's with the Hardwood Paroxysm. I love his Twitter feed is great. He's all over the place on every NBA game, and we wanted to get his thoughts on this series between the Pelicans and Blazers, which is kind of turning into a walkover. And another series that could have implications, and looks like it's going to have implications for the Pelicans, is going on right now between the Warriors and Spurs. It looks like the Warriors will advance. I mean, they're up 3-0. You never say never in the NBA, but I'm curious, Matt, do you think the Warriors, if this plays out and the Warriors get to the Pelicans and they meet in the next round, do you think they're as vulnerable as I think a lot of Pelicans fans think they are, especially with the injuries now, potentially to Kevin Durant and obviously the injury that Steph Curry is going through right now?
They're more vulnerable than they were last year. I don't think I can classify them as vulnerable overall because Curry is likely going to be back for that series. Because of how the playoff scheduling is going to go, there's a good chance that Curry's back either for Game 1 or Game 2, and that fundamentally changes what they're capable of. It's funny, I wrote an actually preseason article saying, like, look, if the Pelicans can find a way to get to the playoffs, they can really match up with the Warriors because of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. And, well, that unfortunately did not work out. But, look, I think New Orleans is going to have some tactical advantages there if we look ahead a little bit. Don't count out Portland until you get that 4th game. But they're going to have some advantages there with, again, the size they bring on the perimeter where they're able to disrupt Klay Thompson and probably crowd Curry a little bit more. Since that first-round playoff series where the Warriors beat the Pelicans, Davis has gotten better and better against them, and Draymond Green has found fewer and fewer tricks to counter him. So Davis, if he's healthy, is likely to have an absolutely monster season. With what Rondo brings to the table and then Mirotic facing the floor, they're going to have a real shot in that series. They're going to need a lot of things to go their way, but they do bring enough to at least say that they have the firepower to counter what Golden State's going to bring.
All right, Matt. Well, we've covered at least everything locally. Now we at least definitely want to get your thoughts on the national scene. And I guess, specifically, we were talking before you got on where, the Pelicans have kind of been able to steal a lot of this limelight of the series just because of, or at least among some, just the absolute sheer shock value of it. But clearly there's a lot of things going on in the NBA in this playoff series around the league. And I guess first, let's just start off with the Cleveland LeBron Jameses versus the Indiana Pacers. This is a strange series. Obviously, LeBron came out in Game 2 and basically had to take the game over himself. But what are your thoughts on that series specifically, knowing full well that this Cleveland team has some problems and have a lot of holes that they're going to have to fill to even just be competitive, not maybe just in this series, but trying to go forward?
This series, more than any other in the last 10 years of LeBron James playing, is LeBron James versus the opponent. And that's really what it comes down to, is James is going to have to give them 30 to 40 every single night for them to win this series. The Pacers came into Game 1 with no expectations, no pressure, but a lot of intensity, and absolutely took it to them. In Game 2, really, I rewatched it last night. It just came down to that first quarter. I thought the Pacers settled in really well after that first quarter. After LeBron got done with his onslaught, they made some adjustments and were able to really challenge him. A lot of what Cleveland is doing right now is using LeBron off ball, and that's actually catching them off guard because you're used to LeBron handling the ball, isolating, working in pick and roll, and they're using him as a screener in a lot of situations, and that's disrupting a lot of what Indiana is expecting. I think they're probably going to make some of those adjustments and make the other guys beat them, and I'm not sure that those other guys are going to be able to do that. We've gotten great performances from J.R. Smith, which he's been bad for 2 years, but I think the Pacers, especially with Victor Oladipo and how he's playing and setting the tone, are going to have a real chance to steal this series. Cleveland has a fight up ahead of them in the next couple of games.
Talking to Matt Moore, here at Hardwood Paroxysm, at HP Basketball on Twitter. Matt, the series that I can't watch enough of is the Jazz Thunder. It's an evenly matched series, and both teams really intense going at it. I think the matchups are interesting all across the board. How do you see this one playing out, or can we even speculate on how this will play out because it's so competitive?
I think it's such a coin flip. Through 2 games, The total score is Thunder 211, Jazz 210. The Jazz have won 4 quarters. The Thunder have won 3, and they tied in 1. I mean, and it hasn't been kind of like an even distribution. It's like one team makes a huge run, and you're like, oh, well, there goes that team. And then the other team makes a huge run, and you're like, oh, well, they blew it. And then it just happens again. They've just alternated on these huge runs, not being able to counter one another. I think the speed, the tempo, the style is still way more of what Oklahoma City wants than Utah. I'm going to be curious if that shifts with the series going to Utah for games 3 and 4. I think Utah has a lot of advantages here in matchups, but the Thunder have more top-end talent. And a lot of this may simply come down to, if we look at the Pacers and Cavs as about LeBron, this one may come down to Westbrook because he was so lethal in Game 1, getting out in transition and getting to the rim. The Jazz did a much better job of slowing him down in Game 2, but if he has another monster game, that can tilt the series and turn what would have been a Thunder loss into a win, and that may be the deciding factor. I think Paul George is the best overall player in this series, but Westbrook has the capability to take over and really decide it if he has another 1 or 2 massive performances.
All right, Matt, one more before we let you run here. Just great insight, but I guess our last question, or at least my last question, is there any way that you don't see or possibly don't see us having a Rockets-Toronto NBA Finals, and what would it take for that to happen, or do you see something possibly standing in the way of having that happen from either the West or the East?
Well, yeah, I think we still got the Warriors in the West, and we still got LeBron James in the East, so we know very little about what's going to happen. I think, I've never really doubted LeBron as much as I do right now. Defensively, he's a mess. But look, if he gets past the Pacers, the Raptors matchup is a little bit more favorable to what the Cleveland wants to do. And then if we assume the Sixers are going to get there, that could be just wild. I think in the West, look, Golden State has not shown their best hand yet. And the concern is going to be that they're going to reach into the well and it's not going to be there. But they've won 2 titles. They have 2 MVPs on their team. They still have the most stacked roster. I think Houston played the best basketball this season, but they're once again played to the bone, so they're tired. They're a little sluggish versus the Wolves. They haven't played great yet, just the Wolves are bad. I think we have a lot more left to be decided. That's one of the exciting things right now. Even though some of these series have already tilted, they tilted in unexpected ways, and I think we're getting set up for what's going to be a pretty great playoff run.
That's Matt Moore, Hardwood Paroxysm at HP Basketball on Twitter. Matt, we really appreciate the time. Great insight, and hopefully get you on in the future. Have a great weekend.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Matt Moore, Hardwood Paroxysm. Man, he could go on, I think, all day.
I told you. Told you, man. I mean, Matt has had his ear to the pulse with the NBA for so long, and such great insight, great information, and not just, the simple standard stuff that you can get from either from us or...
Well, he's analytics.
Yeah, like analytics and just really digging into the types of matchups that you see, why things have gone the way they've gone. Just a really, really great interview. That's exactly what I was expecting. I cannot wait to clip this for the rewind later today.
All right, look for that at NOLA.com later this afternoon, and we'll take another break. When we come back, we're going to break down some of the other series in the NBA playoffs. We touched a little bit on it with Matt, but I think there's some other developments in some of these series that could impact the Pelicans later on and potentially lead to, who knows? I mean, who knows how far these Pelicans can go? Right now, I feel like they're confident and playing with such a swagger that anything is possible. I'm certainly not going to doubt them. I've already done that, Clyde. I've already doubted them once this year. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, don't do that again, please. We've already got people on the YouTube stream wondering, why is Jeff so surprised now? He wasn't surprised earlier in the season.
I cannot deny it. I deserve it all. All right, let's take a break. Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We'll be right back.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Goodwill Industries of Southeastern Louisiana. Donate, shop, and create jobs.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. A fantastic Friday, mostly sunny. Going to be a cool day. The high only in the upper 60s to near 70. Tonight, clear to partly cloudy. Overnight lows still cool, upper 40s north, mid to upper 50s south. Tomorrow on Saturday, we will see more cloud cover, but it should be a mostly dry day. The wet weather day this weekend is going to be Sunday. Keep an eye to the sky. Could see some heavy downpours. Rain chance Sunday 60% with highs pushing 80. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
With warmer weather, it's time to check out spring fashions and update your wardrobe. By shopping at Goodwill, you're giving someone in the community a fresh start through our employment placement and job training services. For more info, go to goodwill.org.
The following call is real. It took place between an OnStar advisor and a member.
OnStar emergency.
I was just rear-ended and I have a child in the car.
Is anyone hurt?
My son says his head hurts.
I have you at Central Avenue.
No matter where you are, you're never alone with OnStar.
I'll bring my partner on the line.
Okay, Miss Bull, I am sending first responders to help. How old is your child? He's 4.
I know this was a scary situation for you, but I'm going to be right here with you.
I'm just so scared for my son right now.
Keep talking to him. Keep him alert.
I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm here for.
An emergency medical dispatch certified advisor is there for you, ready to help, 24 hours a day.
Okay, it looks like the first responders coming out.
Go ahead and speak with them. Please know we are here whenever you need us.
Thank you.
OnStar is available on Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. OnStar. Be safe out there. OnStar advisors certified by International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. OnStar acts as a link to emergency services. Visit OnStar.com for details.
Statistics show that 80% of Americans will give up on their New Year's resolutions by February. But there's one thing Americans never give up: AM/FM radio. In fact, TV reaches 86% of Americans. Radio commercials just like this one will reach 93% of Americans in every single week of 2018. So if you want to reach more moms, fans, teens, professionals, shoppers, and well, more of pretty much everyone, radio's the way to do it. Make a resolution to go to iHeartMedia.com and put radio to work for your company in 2018.
The 4 for $4 from Wendy's has a lot of fans because it's a deal that gives you a sandwich plus 4 nuggets, a small fry, and drink, all for just $4. But now the 4 for $4 has more variety than ever with 8 sandwich choices.
I'm loyal to the double stack.
I'm Junior Bacon Cheeseburger through and through.
I pledge myself to the crispy chicken sandwich.
I'm loyal to my hunger.
Whether you're loyal to one sandwich or all 8, the Wendy's 4 for $4 has a sandwich for you. So try them all and pick your favorite. Now that's deliciously different.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Whether you ride the wave or like to growl, we're talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun.
By the way, is this a song that you requested during the break?
Little Old Crow Medicine Show. Dave delivers, as always. Double D on the spot. This is good stuff, man. Country Fried Friday.
That's a little bit more bluegrassy, but it's fine.
I'm excited tonight. Going to see Lost Bayou Ramblers up at Tipitina's.
Nice.
One of my favorite bands.
Grammy Award winners.
I'm really excited to hear that they're not taking a hiatus. I'd heard they were taking a little bit of a hiatus from touring, and with the Grammy Award, they've decided, hey, let's keep riding this momentum.
Yeah, that makes sense. You win a Grammy, that means that you know, international stardom and is yours for a longer time, longer shelf life than usual. So
I believe Strike While the Iron's Hot
Absolutely.
is probably what is being the strategy they're employing right now.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. You know, you talked earlier about this being a basketball town now again, and you know that was the subject of my column today at NOLA.com. And I think it's definitely true, but I think we need more than one game to prove that. But it just feels like we are now entering some kind of a transcendent moment for this franchise in the city. I think there was a period of time when we weren't even sure if the Pelicans were going to make the playoffs. We weren't sure if Alvin Gentry and Dell Demps were going to survive. We weren't sure what was going to happen. And now that it all seems like it's all working out, that indeed they've made the playoffs. They're not only making it, they're going to advance in the playoffs for only the second time in franchise history. You've got DeMarcus Cousins sitting out. He's on the bench last night. He's all in. You've got Drew Holiday playing at the peak of his game. Niko Mirotic playing out of his mind, and Anthony Davis is one of the transcendent talents in the league. The future is so bright right now for Pelicans basketball, and it seems like finally New Orleans is bought in, and they're fully on board. And once New Orleanians buy in, Katie bar the door. You know, then that's what a sense I got last night.
Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch. I can't wait for Saturday. I mean, because you're talking about last night's game was at 8 o'clock. I think that helped. It's going to be interesting to see Saturday's game is at 4 o'clock, but I still think it'll be sold out because fans realize that they'll be able to see possibly a sweep, which doesn't happen often. This is for teams like this, again, it's like we talked about, I think, 2 days ago. Wacky things can happen in basketball series. Adjustments are made. Teams start to kind of figure out a little bit of your tendencies, and usually there's always going to be a game made out of it during the series, but still that's for me, I think it's a beautiful thing to watch. I can't wait for Saturday, and I think the thing that we should continue to do is that we shouldn't, like most things, we shouldn't let these things pass without finding ways to build it up. We've got that foundation. We've got the level of support and desire to want to see more. I think specifically it's on us to be able to make sure that when the season's over, we're covering Summer League. We're talking about basketball rumors, things like that, and keeping that going.
All right, let's go to the listener line right now. One of our favorite regular listeners and watchers, West Bank Rick. What's going on, Rick? How you doing today?
Hey, man, I just woke up out the Smoothie King. I passed out from unbelief. I just could not believe how they actually. I'm gonna take the thing from Nico because the reason why he got traded because of the punch.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Nico returned the punch to the Blazers because man, he was knocking it down. The point I want to bring out that really stunned me the most is y'all talking about how the city became a basketball city. When you left the Smoothie King, did it look like you was walking in a sea of red?
Oh yes, very much so.
Absolutely, man.
The whole arena was like a sea of red. It was a fun sight to see.
No, outside of the arena. I mean, there was so much red outside the arena. I was like, normally you could see a lot of people wearing Saints, even on off season when Saints is not playing. There was so much red outside of the Superdome, like all around the city where people were just walking around. I was just like really stoked about that.
Yeah, Rick, it was a really fun atmosphere, and I felt like for once the Pelicans had a decided home court advantage, and it certainly was a factor in that game last night. The way the Pelicans started, really the Blazers never had a chance in that game. They were out of it from the beginning.
Did y'all feel like that the team kind of like grasped the feelings of New Orleans, the way they was playing defense, like literally taking the ball from the person who had it, just snatching it right out of their hand. I mean, like acting greedy for the ball. That's the whole statement that they made throughout the whole playoff, just being greedy. And last night they showed how greedy it really was. Like they really Portland couldn't get an answer to get on offense, and they didn't have an answer to stop our offense. I just want to let y'all go, and y'all doing a great job this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick, and I agree. It seemed to me like Portland was overwhelmed from the start.
Yep, and the word that he used, greedy, was the word that obviously the Pelicans used, and then there's one word that Damian Lillard used, and that word was grimy. And I think the Pelicans are super grimy right now.
We're a little grimy in here.
Oh, hey, real quick, guys. Don't forget, I'm talking out to the listeners out there. Follow us on Twitter at Sports1280. Tweet us a pic of yourself in your Pelicans gear, and then hashtag it 1280 does it bigger. And in about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, at noonish, we're going to be drawing the winner for Saturday's Pelicans playoff tickets.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, we're doing it to it, man, because actually this might end up being the last one. We don't know.
Do it big. Do it big. That's a great promotion. Definitely get involved in that. Right around noon, you say, Dave? They'll be drawing?
Yeah, at noon we'll draw one. And so, just snap a pic of yourself and your Pelicans. Follow us on Twitter at Sports1280, and then hashtag it 1280 does it bigger.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Fletcher Mackel, WDSU sports director, get his thoughts on the Pelicans-Blazers series. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280. Stay with us.
They're intelligent. intelligence.
Oh my God!
Thank you. Is not artificial.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you serious?
Up to 16 chances at the top of the hour.
I just want $1,000.
Weekdays between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. The Smart Money is on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
If you own a gun for protection, you need legal defense for self-defense. U.S. Law Shield is now available in your state. If you must defend yourself, you'll never have to worry about attorney's fees. USLawShield.com coverage has no caps, no limits, no deductibles, and 0 attorney's fees, even for an appeal. The U.S. Law Shield Platinum Package is just $10.95 a month. Sign up annual and save. Go to USLawShield.com and hit the radio promo button. Get 14 months when you sign up annually. That's 2 months free. USLawShield.com.
On the next episode of the Thrive Global podcast, Ariana Huffington sits down with Uber's Chief Brand Officer, Bozoma St. John, for a conversation about spirituality, how death changed her perspective on living life, communication, and diversity. The Thrive Global podcast is brought to you by Sleep Number. The Sleep Number bed adjusts on each side, so it is perfect for both you and your partner. Experience the Sleep Number bed exclusively at one of their 550 stores nationwide. Check them out at sleepnumber.com/thrive.
I'm Grant Langston, the new CEO of eHarmony. If you're online dating and looking for love, it's time to try eHarmony. eHarmony's different. eHarmony's gotten really good at bringing compatible people together. People that want the same things you do and are ready for a real relationship. There's one app that's built to bring you real love. eHarmony. Go to eHarmony.com today and get a month free when you buy a 3-month plan. Use code DATE. eHarmony.com. Use code DATE.
Termite damage? Termite damage? Coulda, woulda, shoulda called Terminix. Hi, I'm Jim Mora. Terminix offers you a $650 lifetime termite damage repair guarantee. Call Terminix. Terminix, locally owned for 70 years.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Claude Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, and welcome into the program on this beautiful Friday in New Orleans. One of our favorite people in town, impresario of sports, Fletcher Mackel, sports director, WDSU. Fletch, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing well, Jeff. It is a beautiful day here. The weather, the people that travel down from Portland in the media are getting a treat because I was up there last week and it was a little gloomy. This is a heck of a lot nicer.
Yeah, you know, last night in the arena, were you in the arena, by the way? I didn't see you. I was looking for you. Okay.
I was. I had to leave to go back for the 10 o'clock news, but I was there from 4 o'clock until, 8:30-ish, 9 o'clock.
One of the things that struck me, Fletch, and I'm sure this was true of the Modus Center for games 1 and 2 out on the West Coast, but I looked everywhere to try and find a Blazers fan, and I saw like one at the very end of the game. It was all Pelicans fans. I don't know if that's reflective of just the distance between the two cities or the lack of optimism by Blazers fans after getting swept in those first 2 games. But, man, it was all Pelicans fans, and I thought the environment last night was about as electric as it's been in a long time. So the question I have for you, you're a born and raised New Orleanian. Do you think we're starting to see a little bit of a sea change here in the city's embrace of the Pelicans franchise?
Sure. I would love to believe that. I thought the same thing back in 2008, though, because, you alluded to the atmosphere. That's the last time I remember that building feeling that way, was when the Hornets won 56 games, finished second in the West, beat the Mavericks, that series against the Spurs, Game 7. That was an electric atmosphere. That's the last time I felt that building that way. Not since then have I ever felt it kind of, wow, this place is special. So I would hope that, yes, we have great fans here. Everybody knows about the Saints home field advantage. I would hope that fans are engaging. But look, the reason to me why they haven't had an opportunity to cultivate that die-hard, really passionate fan base is because they haven't had sustained success. And so this is a great way to bring people in. And if they can continue their winning ways, I think they've got a chance to build something. But I don't think it happens flip the switch, and let's do it. It went from bad to good in one game. But I certainly think last night shows that you've got the foundation of potentially doing something if your team can have some sustained winning seasons and make the playoffs and win some games or series in back-to-back years.
Well, Fletcher, that kind of brings up something we talked about too before in our earlier segment. Then doesn't that put the impetus on us to be able to, us in the media or us who cover the team regularly, to make sure that when the season's over, even though the season may be over, there's still things going on. There's still NBA free agency. There's still the draft. There's still the summer league, and before we know it, we're going to be right back into training camp and sustaining this on a level that we're a two-sports town, just like Portland is a two-sport town. I mean, they've got the Timbers, they've got the Timbers and the Trailblazers, we've got the Saints and the Pelicans, and even though it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, doesn't that at some point mean that like we have to continue to put the Pelicans and having them have a space during Saints OTAs, Saints training camp, Jazz Fest, things like that too?
I would agree wholeheartedly, and my answer would be yes. And look, I can't speak for everybody else in the media because I know everybody has their own beliefs, their own opinions, what sells, what clicks, But I know from my standpoint, I have always covered the Pelicans in a passionate way on equal footing with the Saints. So I feel like I don't want to, say, again, not to talk about how other people do things, but I remember, another media affiliate, the Pelicans are on a 10-game winning streak, and they're still talking about Saints free agency, even though nothing's going on. And so, again, I would say that, yes, it is important to make sure that they are covered in an equal and appropriate way. But I can only speak for myself and say that I certainly do that and enjoy doing that. But, yeah, I would say that that's important as well to make sure that they get the same coverage as a team like the Saints.
Fletch, it looks like, barring some kind of miracle, that the Pelicans here are going to advance in this series. I just can't see the Blazers rallying. I don't even think they have the motivation right now to rally. They just look like a defeated, beaten team. So the question I have for you, pulling back the lens a little bit, and let's go big picture, do you think this cements the future of Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry going forward? A playoff series victory, it's only happened one other time in the history of the franchise here in New Orleans. Do you think that's pretty much secures their future in New Orleans?
Yeah, obviously for the foreseeable future, without question. And I've written a lot and talked a lot on TV about how I thought maybe they should have made changes years ago. But I think now, the one thing the Bensons are, Tom Benson and now I think Gail Benson, their hierarchy of Mickey Loomis and Dennis Rocha, is patient. And their patience is seemingly paying off right now with Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry. It took a long time for Dell Demps to get it right, but, Nico Mirotic is a great move, and the Drew Holiday signing is certainly looking like a solid move. He's had misses, but they're going to win a playoff series, and I don't think they're going to beat Golden State, but I think they're going to win a couple of games against Golden State. But, yeah, I would expect both of them. Alvin Gentry, the team will pick up the option on his contract, and I assume give him a 2-year extension, and I would assume Dell Demps is going to get an extension as well. So I think for better or worse, and we could probably go and look and mine the history and make an argument both ways, but I think that both of those men are going to stay in charge of this franchise. I think it's a no-brainer. It's already been decided. They will both be back for the foreseeable future.
And look, I think it's hard. Look, I've been critical, as a lot of us in the local media have been, and I think justifiably so, of Dell Demps and some of the moves he's made. I mean, obviously the Omer Ashik deal, hanging on to Eric Gordon. There's been a lot of things that he's missed on, like you said. But this year, Fletch, I mean, he's almost batting 1,000. I mean, if you go back, obviously you go back to Rajon Rondo, that signing at $3.3 million, that looks like a huge bargain, one of the best bargains in the league. Then he adds Ian Clark and Darius Miller for kind of bargain basement deals. And then I think the biggest deal of all, I think, saved the season, bringing in Nico Mirotic and unloading Jameer Nelson, Omer Ashik, Tony Allen. I mean, you unloaded a bunch of 30-something guys that didn't really fit the system. That deal, all the praise goes on the DeMarcus Cousins deal, but I think this deal is going to end up being the best deal he's ever made.
I would agree wholeheartedly. I mean, look, up until this year, I mean, the misses were plentiful in the decision-making, and nothing seemed to work out, give it injury or fit or guys that didn't want to be here like Eric Gordon. There were so many misses, and very few people, I say this all the time, in the world of high-stakes professional sports, very few coaches and executives get a chance at a do-over, if you will. Dell Demps got a chance at a do-over because his first plan went sideways, and he got a chance to do it all over again. And good for him. If he's learned from his mistakes, if he's become a better general manager because of those trials and tribulations, then good for him. Same with Alvin Gentry. he came here to coach one team, and he has had to pivot several times and reinvent this team. And I think he's finally playing the style of basketball that he wants to coach and he knows how to coach. And so yeah, I think they've done everything right this season. And that goes for Gentry, too. I think he deserves a lot of credit and should get a lot of Coach of the Year votes for the job he did figuring it out with Cousins and Davis. Then when Cousins goes down, figuring it out without Cousins. And then, like you said, I mean, every move Dell Demps has made. I was very critical of the Rajon Rondo deal because he had some rough goes in Dallas and Chicago and Sacramento. But he has been a godsend for this franchise in this organization. And then Mirotic was an incredible deal. And then you're right, the below the radar deal, Ian Clark for a minimum deal, and bringing Darius Miller back from Europe. I mean, these are moves that's why the Pelicans are going to win their first round in 10 years. And so, yeah, so I think their future is definitely secure. I think they'll both get extensions, and it's hard to argue with the success they've had. It took them a while to get there, but hopefully they've figured it out, and we'll all be talking about patience as a virtue. And look what happens when guys, you give them a chance and you stick with them.
All right, that's Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director at WDSU. Appreciate the insight, Fletch.
Thanks, bud.
We'll see you at the arena on Saturday, and we'll be back with Duncan Holder at the top of the hour with our first
jam-packed
break.
hour, man. Good gracious. We had so many good guests. It was awesome.
And we're also going to go as well into Saints.
Follow us on Twitter at Sports1280.
What Dave said. Follow us on Twitter at Sports1280.
Take a picture in your Pelicans gear.
Take a
then hashtag it 1280 does it bigger.
Does it bigger.
Pelicans tickets in an hour.
You want those tickets, and it's sold out It's sold out Saturday. It's the only way you can get tickets.
Yeah, how can
it's
you not
the
have,
only way.
How can you not have Pelicans fever? All right, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun on the break, but we will go to another break and at the top of the hour. Then when we come back, we're going to talk Saints. We want to get into that schedule for 2018. And we'll also talk to Mike Triplett, our former colleague, who's now at ESPN, get his thoughts on the Pelicans as well.
Instead of a turkey bird, getting a dirty bird.
All right, you're listening to Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Well, a week from today, round one of the NFL draft will already be in the books. The Colts traded away the number 3 overall pick already in this year's draft. They now have the 6th overall pick, and GM Chris Ballard said they'd be comfortable doing it again.
We feel good about the player that's going to be there. But saying that, we will be open to moving back if we think it's the right thing for us to do and there's enough players on the board, depending on how far we have to move back, that we feel comfortable taking.
Ballard on NFL Network's Good Morning Football. He also said that Andrew Luck is making progress as he makes his return. Says he's not really concerned about his progress because training camp's still 3 months away. College news, former Ohio State and Hall of Fame football coach Earl Bruce has passed away at the age of 87. He coached the Buckeyes from 1979 to 87, winning 4 Big Ten titles. I'm Deb Carson.
We are Fox Sports. Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BANK to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BANK to 200-200.
Hi, I'm Attorney General Jeff Landry, reminding you that fair housing should never be denied because of your race, color, national origin, religion, or disability. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." This is especially true with your rights to live where you choose. If you have experienced housing discrimination, report it. 1-800-273-5718 or visit agjefflandry.com. Sponsored by HUD.
The following call is real. It took place between an OnStar advisor and a member.
OnStar emergency. I was just rear-ended and I have a child in the car.
Does anyone hurt?
My son says his head hurts.
I have you at Central Avenue.
No matter where you are, you're never alone with OnStar.
I'll bring my partner on the line.
Okay, Miss Bull, I am sending first responders to help. How old is your child? He's 4.
I know this was a scary situation for you, but I'm going to be right here with you.
I'm just so scared for my son right now.
Keep talking to him. Keep him alert.
I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm here for.
An emergency medical dispatch certified advisor is there for you, ready to help, 24 hours a day.
Okay, okay. It looks like the first responders coming out.
Go ahead and speak with them. Please know we are here whenever you need us.
Thank you.
OnStar is available on Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. OnStar. Be safe out there. OnStar advisors certified by International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. OnStar acts as a link to emergency services. Visit OnStar.com for details.
As a small business owner, you're juggling it all, including customers' calls from your personal phone. But with Grasshopper, you get a business phone number and a business phone system from our mobile app, so you can work smarter, not harder. Grasshopper forwards calls, texts, even transcribes voicemails. Everything you need to simplify your business and stay responsive. With Grasshopper, there's no long-term contracts, and customer support is 24/7. Whether you're starting or growing your business, Grasshopper is the answer. Now get $20 off your first month when you visit grasshopper.com/radio.
Experience golf like never before. An exciting new format, and it's right here at the Zurich Classic. See the greatest golfers from around the world playing as two-man teams. Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, Bubba Watson, Justin Thomas, last year's Masters champion Sergio Garcia, and more. With great food on the course, like fantastic seafood and more at the Acme Oyster House. Or try the Fidelity Bank Champions Club, featuring 8 great local restaurants. Golf, food, music, and fun. The Zurich Classic, April 26th through 29th. For tickets, visit ZurichGolfClassic.com.
Who did you let down today? If you are drinking too much or doing too many drugs, you probably let a whole bunch of people down. And I bet you're not sleeping very well either. Well, we can help you at the Detox Hotline. Let us be your recovery concierge. And don't think this is just another treatment ad. I promise you, we're different. We'll put you in a luxury-like getaway where our painless detox process will fix your addiction problem. And in no time at all, you'll get your life and your sleep back. Painless detox is here, and our recovery concierge service will work with your insurance company to maximize your coverage. We are different. Let us help you break your addiction to drugs and alcohol before it's too late. Take 5 minutes of your time and call right now. I promise we'll change your life. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325. 800-296-1325.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Free Movie Friday with Adam Tickets is back. Text LIFT to ATOM, the number 1, for your chance to win free movie tickets. The Adam Tickets app lets you skip the lines. Browse movie titles, buy tickets, invite friends, and pre-order concessions all from your phone. Standard data and text message rates may apply.
Dunc and Holder, back at you for hour 2 on Friday, April 20th, a beautiful Friday in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. We're broadcasting from the iHeart Studios in the greatest city on the planet, New Orleans, Louisiana, home of the New Orleans Pelicans, who are up 3-0 right now in their series with the Portland Trail Blazers and have kind of turned New Orleans into at least something of a basketball town with their bold run here in the playoffs and a chance potentially to wrap up their first playoff series win in a decade. But we're going to switch our gears from Blazers and Pelicans talk to the Saints, because normally we would spend an entire 2-hour show talking about the New Orleans Saints and their 2018 schedule, and we'd talk about Drew Brees, because who doesn't want to talk about Drew Brees? But in this case, the schedule dropped on the day of the Pelicans-Blazers game, and everybody's talking about the Pelicans, so the Saints schedule, while it did draw some attention, did get kind of lost in the shuffle. So, Clyde, let's break this down a little bit. Let's get into some of these games that stood out on the schedule in 2018. As we mentioned earlier, 5 primetime games on the docket, and I think that is reflective of the high-profile nature of this team, the fact that they are very popular to the broadcast partners is not a surprise when you have a marquee quarterback like Drew Brees, and then you pair him up with some emerging stars, Pro Bowl talents like Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, one of the top corners in the league. And then you throw in the fact that their schedule has so many top contenders in the NFC on it. It just leads to natural high-profile matchups. You got the Rams, the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. You got rematch with the Vikings. You got the natural rivalry with the Falcons and Panthers and Bucks in the division. So when you looked at the schedule when it finally came out, what stood out to you as a Louisiana native and someone that's followed the Saints all of their lives? What did you say, hey, that's the game that I need to be at?
I think immediately it's going to be hard to say that there's any one game on this schedule that I'm going to be looking forward to more. For me, I think personally, and I think a lot of Saints fans will agree, but having a primetime football game on Thanksgiving night against your most fiercest rival at home, for me, is going to be one of the moments that I cannot wait to have. And I know some people are going to look at it and think about it as, oh man, it is a football game, Thanksgiving night, at home. Wow. But at the same time, think about it. Think about that schedule. Think about that day. Think about what we do anyway. We're talking about we're having Thanksgiving with our families. We're around friends. We're around family. And then you have the luxury and the absolute just luck of having a huge divisional game on national TV Thanksgiving night. I cannot wait for this game. I cannot wait for the Saints to take on the Falcons on November 22nd, 7:20 on NBC. It is going to be one of the games of the year. I think, for me specifically, that will be a game that decides the division.
All right, well, that's your thoughts on it. Let's ask people out there if they want to call in their thoughts. You can call at 504-260-1280. What game stood out to you all? What game do you most want to see? What concerns you about the schedule? Maybe what didn't you like about the schedule? I think the thing that stood out to me a little bit when I looked at it was the fact they play 3 straight road games near the end of the season. I think it's weeks 13 through 15. That's very unusual, Clyde. You don't see that very often on an NFL schedule. I think only 3 teams this year have it. But overall, I think, look, everybody likes to complain and find some reason to be outraged at the schedule. It's like an easy thing to do.
Too many Thursday games, everybody's going to be injured.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time, man. Quit whining. The NFL schedule, you know how hard that is to do, to put 32 teams together and match up all the tour dates that you have to kind of negotiate around and navigate around. I mean, the Superdome's got all kinds of stuff going on. It's impossible to make everybody happy. So just please eliminate the outrage over the fact that the Saints are playing 2 Thursday night games back-to-back. If you're going to play them, in some ways, it's the best way to do it, play them back-to-back. The 3 road games in a row at the end of the year, that doesn't bother me. I think the schedule actually sets up incredibly well for the Saints. They get to open the season with 2 very winnable games in the Superdome. Yeah. Got a chance to get off to a really fast start, and then you close the season at home with the Steelers and Panthers. Now, those could be 2 tough games, but the fact is, in December, when you're hopefully fighting for a playoff berth, you get to play in the Superdome, and we all know how the Superdome is in December when the Saints are in the playoff hunt. That place is electric. So I think the schedule is as good and as favorable as it can be, given the level of competition that it has with the aforementioned powers in the NFC, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Falcons, all these teams on the schedule right off the bat. It's gonna be a challenge, and the Saints are gonna have to stay healthy. But I like the way the schedule sets up this year.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about that, Jeff, to your point, is I'm really surprised that the Steelers game is as late as it is. I would have imagined that game would have probably been a little bit earlier on in the year. You know, that game, you get a really good NFC team and AFC team going at it. That's a game that you figure a CBS would like to have, or because it's at home, that's going to be a CBS televised game. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Correct.
So you figure that's going to be a game that they would want a little bit earlier in the season, because it is just kind of like an appetite whetter for, man, like we're going to get a really good AFC-NFC matchup already, then that kind of leads to a few more. But I'm surprised it's that late, but you're right. That's going to be a huge game. It's going to be 2 days before Christmas. So you got that. Then obviously, we talked about it, and we've talked about it the last few years, having Carolina basically within the span of 3 weeks. That one's going to be that's going to be still a challenge because you're playing them on the road first, and then playing them at home towards the end of the year, close to the new year. But that Rams game on November 4th, that's going to be a huge game. The Eagles at noon, that's going to be, that's got to be a must-watch. Depending on where the Eagles are, if they have Carson Wentz back, if they're as good as they were last year, obviously P-Rob going up against his former team they just won a Super Bowl with, that's going to be huge. And there's still a few other games here on the docket that I think, and of course, I cannot wait for November 29th, the week after Thanksgiving, where it's basically me against my entire family when the Saints go to Jerry World to take on the Cowboys in Arlington for another NFL Network game for Thursday night, where basically it will be myself and I against literally my entire family of Cowboys fans. So it's going to be weird. It's going to be great. I will be able to gloat after it's over because the Cowboys are clearly on decline. I don't care what anybody's saying. And who knows? Maybe Des Bryant might be on the Saints, and that would be interesting.
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but one man can dream.
Bragging rights on the line in the Verdun household on November 29th. I think the Saints have a great shot to get off to at least, at worst, a 4-1 start. You open up at home against the Bucks, the cellar dweller in the NFC South, perennial cellar dweller, and then you get the Browns, who, what have they won, about 2 games in the last 3 years combined? Yeah. They're still in transition mode. Then you go to Atlanta. That's going to be a tough game. Always is in Atlanta against your rivals. Then you come back the next week and go up to New York against the Giants, who are trying to break in a new head coach, a new general manager. They're in full-scale transition. They're one of the worst teams in the NFC. Then you get the Redskins back here in the Superdome October 8th before the Week 6 bye date. And then you get into the meat of the schedule. At Baltimore, a team you've struggled against historically. At Minnesota, one of the best teams in the NFC, where you lost twice last year in a rematch of the NFC playoff game, one of the great games in recent NFL history. Then you come back here and get the Rams, who look at what they've done this offseason. They're a star-studded roster coming in here for a 3 o'clock game, the Fox National game. Then you go up to Cincinnati and play Catherine Terrell's Bengals.
I'm sure y'all can't wait for that. By the way, y'all are going to have Skyline Chili. I'm going to make sure this happens. Larry's definitely going to have it.
That's a win for the Saints. I'm already counting it, even before we've seen what happens in the NFL draft. Then you come back for that game, Clyde, against the Eagles. Falcons on Thanksgiving night, and Thanksgiving is going to be incredible in this city because it's traditionally the big opening day of the soft opening of the fairgrounds meet. I always go and cover that.
You would find a way to bring horse racing into this.
Well, it's a big day. If you go out there, you'd see there's always 10, 15,000 people out there.
I need to hear horses.
Yes, and it's usually a big day. A lot of people in New Orleans go out there, and then they have Thanksgiving dinner afterward. Now you're going to have Thanksgiving dinner with the Saints Falcons either on your TV set, or you're going to have to figure out how you're going to make that work.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to do both, I don't think. Go to the races and then go to the Superdome. Huge day. Thank you, Dave. A huge day of sports activity in New Orleans on Thanksgiving Day, November 22nd. And the Falcons game will be broadcast nationally on NBC, and that will be must-see TV. It's always a three-game lineup now for NFL fans. You always have the Lions as the first game. The Cowboys play the second game. Then there's a national game on NBC at night, and it's almost always a either all AFC matchup or an all NFC matchup. And so it didn't surprise me that the Saints get the Falcons in that primetime, viewing option for everybody. And I think what's been proven is that the league understands that the Falcons-Saints is a must-watch rivalry. This is now the 10th time in the last 12 years that one of the games in that annual series has either been on Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. So it just shows you they understand the intensity of that rivalry and the compelling nature of when these two teams face off.
Right. And if anything now, because we were talking about this yesterday when you were doing the research, to possibly if this would end up being a nationally televised game, at least one of them with the Falcons, just the overall history of the series, or at least since Sean Payton's been here, and it's incredible to think that this rivalry has become what it is. And now I think the rest of the country is now getting a flavor for what we've been enjoying here, which has been a very good, tight, exciting matchup with the Falcons. But if you look at the early portion of the schedule, and we'll get in this with Mike Triplett, of course. We have Mike Triplett coming on this hour, who's going to pull double duty because we're going to talk about basketball and football because he was there with us last night. It's hard for me to not look at the first part of the schedule and see the Saints easily being 5-0 or 4-1 going into the bye. Going into that bye,
you're counting them beating Atlanta, which they haven't done.
I know. I really think that could be the game. That could be a very early statement game where they could be 5-0 or 4-1 going into that bye week, going into that real meat of the schedule where you're playing the Ravens on the road, Vikings, Rams, Bengals, and Eagles before you play the Falcons again on Thanksgiving.
Well, we'll debate that later in the show, but let's take an early break here, and then when we come back, we'll get Mike Triplett on the line from ESPN and get his thoughts on the Saints schedule. And also his thoughts on this Willie Snead development today with the Baltimore Ravens. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280. Stay with us.
If we don't see eye to eye, there's something we can do. I start walking your way, you start walking mine. We meet in the middle, meet that up Georgia pine. We gain a lot of ground, 'cause we both give a little. Ain't no road too long when we meet in the middle.
Eric Asher bringing you the truth every day, noon to 2 on Sports 1280. Of course, you can also check me out on the television side, the award-winning Inside New Orleans Sports. Won a Press Club Award back in 2015 for the best TV sports show.
Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2, Sports 1280 New Orleans.
You get a strong opinion each and every day.
The following call is real. It took place between an OnStar advisor and a member.
OnStar emergency.
I was just rear-ended and I have a child in the car.
Does anyone hurt?
My son says his head hurts.
I have you at Central Avenue.
No matter where you are, you're never alone with OnStar.
I'll bring my partner on the line.
Okay, Miss Well, I am sending first responders to help. How old is your child? He's 4.
I know this was a scary situation for you, but I'm going to be right here with you.
I'm just so scared for my son right now.
Keep talking to him. Keep him alert.
I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm here for.
An emergency medical dispatch certified advisor is there for you, ready to help, 24 hours a day.
Okay, it looks like the first responder's coming out.
Go ahead and speak with them. Please know we are here whenever you need us.
Thank you.
OnStar is available on Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. OnStar. Be safe out there. OnStar advisors certified by International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. OnStar acts as a link to emergency services. Visit OnStar.com for details.
Bad news on two fronts for Wells Fargo Bank. It's facing a total of $1 billion in fines from 2 different federal agencies for a variety of sins, including forcing people to buy auto insurance they didn't need, charging improper fees to lock in mortgage rates, and having poor risk management and compliance practices. And Wells is losing the mortgage business of 1.7 million members of the American Federation of Teachers. That's because Wells refused the union's demand to stop lending to gun makers, as rival Bank of America has. As trade tensions rise between the U.S. and China now threatening to lower its soybean imports from this country, farmers like Brent Bible in Romney, Indiana, are rethinking their entire crop plan.
It's frustrating to think about the government can affect policy that's going to negatively impact our price. It's the difference between a profit for the year and a loss for the year.
The stakes are high for American soybean farmers like him. China is the top importer of U.S. soybeans, buying $14.5 billion worth of the product, which makes up a staggering 61% of all U.S. soybean exports. The war of words has become increasingly heated.
But as Aditi Roy reports, some analysts think China's reliance on U.S. soybeans is so high, it's unlikely to cut off its purchases long term. Yet another positive economic sign, the Conference Board's package of 10 factors known as the leading economic indicators increased another 0.3% in March, and it's been up 3 months in a row. Those indicators include everything from jobs to factory orders and stock prices. The board is predicting robust growth the rest of this year, although it says it will be closely watching the potential impacts of weakness in residential construction and stock market swings. And more sticker shock at the car dealership. A new Edmunds.com report says the average price of a new car is about $6,500 more than it was 5 years ago. Higher car prices are only one factor. Higher car loan rates and longer-term loans are also big ones. Consumer and business news. Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
Hi, this is Jennifer Coolidge. The American Heart Association says the disco song Stayin' Alive is the near-perfect beat for hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult collapse from cardiac arrest, you only need 2 steps to help save a life. Call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest to the beat of the song Stayin' Alive. Disco is back and it's saving lives. To learn more, go to heart.org/hands-only-CPR.
Nationally supported by the WellPoint Foundation.
This is Dunc and Holden on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Dunc and Holden, Claude Verdin, Dave DeCorbier, and pleased to be joined by one of our favorite people in New Orleans, former colleague of mine and good friend, Michael Triplett, who I was stunned to see, absolutely stunned.
He is not a one-trick pony. He is clearly a very versatile and talented journalist.
I was stunned. I looked down the press row and see Mike Triplett scribing away, and I think he was lost. I think he was lost. Trip, what was your?
I got very confused. When they said the same schedule is coming out, I thought there was a game. I drove down there. Nobody was in the dome. I followed the crowd.
Well, I have to ask. I have to ask. What was your impression of last night? I mean, like, I know you're not the most fanatical NBA follower, but it felt a little. I have to say this. It felt to me, and I hate to always compare the Pelicans to the Saints, but it felt a little like a Saints game in there. I mean, I felt like the electricity was something like a Saints-Falcons game at certain points in the game last night.
All right, well, look, I didn't come on your show to make enemies today. I have nothing to gain by making a controversial statement. But, of course it felt like a Saints game. The Pelicans looked like the best freaking team in the NBA last night. Everybody's calling this a basketball town now. It would be a basketball town if the team had looked like that for the last 10 years.
That's a good point.
They looked phenomenal. Yes, it's easy to be a basketball town when you have those 4 guys playing the way they've been playing in this series. And if that's what the future holds and they bring back Boogie Cousins, then yes, this will become a basketball town.
All right, well, I wanted to get that out of the way because I want to move quickly into talk about the New Orleans Saints because, this hour is going to be all Saints talk. And first, before we get into the schedule, Trip, I wanted to ask you about this development with Willie Snead, your colleague at ESPN, Adam Schefter, reporting on the offer sheet that's been offered to him by the Baltimore Ravens. What does this do to Willie Snead and his future in New Orleans?
Well, it kind of makes me wonder if the Saints got a heads up on this because they just re-signed Brandon Coleman 2 days ago.
Yeah, good point.
And when they re-signed Brandon Coleman, I thought, oh, man, suddenly the receiving corps is kind of crowded. There's only like 2 spots to go around for Meredith and Coleman and Snead and Austin Carr, and they might draft one. So Coleman sort of feels like he's replacing Willie Snead, as far as roster numbers, and the guy penciled in as the number 4 receiver right now. So it sure seems to me like they're going to let him go. Now, 2 days ago, I thought, sure, bring back Willie Snead at $1.9 million, see what he looks like, see if he's turned things around, looks re-energized. The potential is obviously there. His potential is as high as Cameron Meredith, who the Saints just signed. But I don't think you pay, what are the details of the deal, 2 years, $7 million, up to $10 million in incentives. I don't think you can pay that kind of money to both Meredith and Snead. I think you sort of chose Meredith over Snead.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. I didn't think about that, but it easily could have happened that the Saints got wind of this offer coming down the road and went ahead and made a preemptive strike, got Brandon Coleman under contract. That makes a lot of sense to me because I think we both agree. I mean, I don't think they're going to match that kind of offer when they've already made that investment in Cam Meredith.
Yeah, it doesn't mean Snead won't be worth it. I mean, he's obviously going to be motivated. We saw what a motivated Willie Snead looked like when he went undrafted and got cut by the Browns and Panthers. I think a ton of things happened with Snead last year. There was the injury, there was the suspension. I don't think he came into camp looking his best or performing his best in the first place. And things just kind of spiraled from there. But we obviously know what his potential can look like when he's motivated, and this will be a big wake-up call for him. So I would not be surprised at all to see him get his career back on track, but it looks like that's going to happen in Baltimore.
Talking to Mike Triplett, ESPN's Saints beat reporter, does a great job for them and did a great job for us for a number of years. And Trip, the schedule dropped yesterday, and look, we're kidding about it being a basketball town, but that's one of the few times I can remember where people were actually talking about the Pelicans a little bit instead of the 24/7 intense look at the schedule. But what were your thoughts when you got the schedule and you got a chance to look at it, and what stood out to you?
Well, what's funny is I don't think there's anything on the schedule that strikes me as, oh, man, the Saints are in big trouble. I remember having that feeling last year when they had at Minnesota versus New England, at Carolina, at London for the first 4 weeks. I was like, right. Oh, man, this couldn't get any worse. But there's nothing that strikes me from scheduling purposes, but I don't think I realized just how tough their schedule was in general. Mm-hmm. Most of the good teams they're playing are at home. But, man, when we do this exercise every year where we pick them game by game, and I knew I wanted to finish up at 11-5, and I'm like, all right, I'll have them lose at Minnesota. And, okay, the Rams, that's a tough one. And, the Eagles, at Dallas, at Atlanta, at Carolina. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm only supposed to pick 5 losses in here. So, obviously the Saints are good enough to win 12 or 13 games, and they can beat anybody. We've seen that from them time and time again. But there was about a 8-week stretch in there where they're going to face pretty much every other top contender in the NFC.
Well, Trip, obviously, going to your game by game predictions, you have the Saints going 11-5, I believe. That's correct.
Yep.
So clearly, there's at least with at least what you've been able to see in the way that the schedule lays out, there's some room in there for the Saints to be able to. Obviously, if you're talking about them taking the division, possibly, and then getting some of these wins against teams in like the AFC North and the NFC East. Clearly, I guess the way that you were able to see it and the way it lays out, it leaves a lot to be expected of a team that is coming off the year it had last year, and then hoping to build upon that to be maybe, instead of the 3 or 4 seed in the NFC playoffs, maybe the 1 or 2.
Well, here's the funny thing about that schedule, and it's always a thankless exercise to predict who's going to win each individual game, because real life doesn't work that way. Like, I could absolutely see the Saints losing at Baltimore and losing at Cincinnati. Those are the kind of games the Saints lose all the time in their history. It's usually a letdown game after a big game. It's an unfamiliar AFC opponent that plays on grass, and they're tough physical teams. So they could go win at Minnesota. They could win at Carolina on a Monday Night Football. They could beat the Eagles, and they could lose to the Bengals and lose to the Ravens. I have them losing to the Steelers at home, too. I think the AFC North is a tough matchup for them in the division. So it's tough to pick the games one by one, but I do feel really good about an 11-5 prediction. I think there's probably 10 or 12 pick'em games on the schedule, and I like the Saints' chances of winning like 7 out of 10 pick'em games. I think they became such a good team last year, and what I liked about them last year is it wasn't just the offense has to be on for them to win. On those days when the passing game wasn't there, the running game was there. On the days where the offense wasn't there, the defense was there. And they're just a really well-rounded team that I think is a legit 10 to 12 win team.
Trip, let's turn our attention to the draft, which goes down next week. And the Saints have done a little roster tweaking here in the last couple weeks. We mentioned the Cam Meredith signing at wide receiver. They brought in veteran Ben Watson to kind of shore up the tight end position. Look, it's impossible. You talk about the folly of trying to predict a season, schedule. It's almost impossible to pick what's going to happen at number 27, that slot in the draft. But what do you think? I mean, do you think this is a year where we could see the Saints trade down maybe or trade up just because it doesn't feel like, to me, this board plays out well for them in considering some of the needs that they have on the roster?
Well, look, I think they need to have some sort of like electroshock therapy machine in there that prevents them from trading up. They just don't have the ammo to trade up. I mean, they have a pretty complete roster, so they don't need to come away with 5 new starters out of this draft. But when you only have one of the top 90 picks, if you trade up, then it's almost like the Ricky Williams draft all over again.
Right.
So I think they should resist the temptation to trade up unless somehow they absolutely love a quarterback that's there 5 or 6 spots ahead. But, we've never seen them. We've seen them trade down a lot in the draft, but we've never seen them do it in round 1 since Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton have been here. They've never traded down. This seems like the year they would consider that because they don't have a second-round pick. But then again, like I said, they don't have to come away with 5 new starters. I think they'll probably stay put at 27. They'll probably have a player. This is how it always works, They'll have a player when it's the 27th pick that they have rated 15th on their board, and that magnet will be standing all alone. It's exactly what happened with Ryan Ramczyk last year. I think they had him rated in their top 15, and there he was at 32. So we spend months saying, what are their needs, what positions do they need, and then the choice becomes pretty obvious for them. So that could be any one of a number of guys. I did predict, we had to turn in a prediction just today for ESPN, and I predicted they'll take a tight end only because I think there's such a high probability that at that range, there's a lot of tight ends that a lot of people seem to have graded in that 25 to 50 range. Hayden Hurst and Dallas Goedert, Mike Gesicki. So, that's a position group you can gamble on, but they're not going to reach to fill a specific position.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. I could see them taking a tight end because I think that player will be graded probably similarly to whoever else is on the board at that time. But I also would not be shocked to see them take, say, like Will Hernandez, a guard, a really highly rated guard from UTEP, or the Daniels guy.
You mean James Daniels, center from Iowa, is what you meant to say, right?
Exactly, your Iowa Hawkeyes. But it wouldn't shock me. Would it shock you? I mean, you take the best player on the board, and those guys could be that number 15 spot on their board.
Well, and absolutely, and that's not a bad position to grab because you just lost Senio Kelemete, and you need depth for now, and how long is Max Unger going to be around? You don't know that for sure, but it's not one of my top 5 needs for the team, but I think it's in play. One position I would try to resist if I'm them and wipe off my board is running back.
Yep.
Just because only so many running backs can play at once. I mean, I suppose Mo Kingan could be heading into his final year with this team, but it just seems like that's a position that would have such a hard time making an impact on the team. And, I'm never sold on running backs as first-round picks in general, but there aren't many positions that I would completely rule out. I mean, cornerback seems to have nice depth, but there's going to be some good cornerbacks there. Receiver, they just signed a bunch of them, but if Calvin Ridley falls or, they're like DJ Moore, I'm not ruling that out either.
Well, Trip, that kind of leads into my question because specifically, we've talked about offensive linemen, we've talked about tight ends, we've talked about, edge rushers and defensive end. We're talking about needs specifically that aren't the quote-unquote sexy picks. We're not the Saints are not a team where you're looking at picking 1 through 4 and you have rumors about the Browns getting quarterbacks to both spots because that just seems insane, and the world obviously can't have nice things. But clearly that's got to be, at this point, fans have gotten used to now the last 2 drafts being able to find guys that have helped bolster the team to make real runs. And I guess at the end of the day, does it make more sense that these non-sexy drafts but stable drafts are where you want to be as a franchise right now for the Saints?
Well, yeah, look, they've proven it time and time again. They're not just a team that talks about the best available player. They actually draft the best available player. And, think of a couple core players on last year's team that weren't Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara. Ryan Ramczyk, he was not supposed to start last year, and they needed him because of injuries. And Andrus Peat. Nobody liked that pick because an offensive tackle wasn't a need in 2015, and now he has turned out to be a great pillar for this team. Their history, Deuce McAllister when they had Ricky Williams, Will Smith when they had Darren Howard and Charles Grant. I mean, they believe in that philosophy. They don't say, how does this guy fit in this year's lineup? And it works out well for them that way. But, yes, if you want the instant impact player, and we didn't talk about them because we were sort of going through all the what-ifs, but absolutely, the dream scenario is the highest graded player on that board is a guy who can rush the passer or be an athlete anywhere in that front 7. A weak side linebacker, a pass rushing defensive tackle, a pass rushing defensive end. If their highest rated player on the board fits one of those positions, then I think that is a guy who could immediately contribute 20 to 30 snaps and fill a big need for this team this year.
No doubt about it. All right, Mike Triplett, ESPN, Saints beat reporter extraordinaire and all-around great Frisbee golfer, maybe the best in the city.
Yeah.
You'd probably agree with that.
I'm no Joel Erickson on the disc golf course, so if you're putting your power rankings together. And I want to get the Saints quarterbacks out there with footballs to have them do one of their QB challenges.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Trip. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you at the arena, I guess, very soon.
Absolutely.
All right, Mike Triplett, ESPN, one of the best, and always good to get his insight on the Saints. He's been covering for a long time and knows the team up and down. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to continue some Saints talk right here on Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280. Stay with us.
He's gonna love the way you shine. So did I. So don't smile at me if it ain't what you mean. Goodbye. With that goodbye in your eye.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Holiday Inn West Bank.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. A fantastic Friday, mostly sunny. Going to be a cool day. The high only in the upper 60s to near 70. Tonight, clear to partly cloudy. Overnight lows still cool, upper 40s north, mid to upper 50s south. Tomorrow on Saturday, we will see more cloud cover, but it should be a mostly dry day. The wet weather day this weekend is going to be Sunday. Keep an eye to the sky. Could see some heavy downpours. Rain chance Sunday 60% with highs pushing 80. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
Enjoy a breathtaking view of the New Orleans skyline and the mighty Mississippi River from the top of the Holiday Inn West Bank Tower. Events catered by the Roundhouse Bar and Grill offer your favorite local dishes. Swing by the Holiday Inn West Bank to meet the team and reserve your special day.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
The 4 for $4 from Wendy's has a lot of fans because it's a deal that gives you a sandwich plus 4 nuggets, a small fry, and drink, all for just $4. But now the 4 for $4 has more variety than ever with 8 sandwich choices.
I'm loyal to the double stack.
I'm Junior Bacon Cheeseburger through and through.
I pledge myself to the crispy chicken sandwich.
I'm loyal to my hunger.
Whether you're loyal to one sandwich or all 8, the Wendy's 4 for $4 has a sandwich for you. So try them all and pick your favorite. Now that's deliciously different.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Every business needs great people, and the better way to find them. Something better than posting your job online and just praying for the right people to see it. ZipRecruiter revolutionized hiring. Their technology finds great candidates for you. No wonder 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Goodbye post and pray. Hello ZipRecruiter. The smartest way to hire.
Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's more than any man can take. Being Mr. Mom. Well, paper smelled in a Maytag dryer.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Breakfast 6, naps at 9. There's
Welcome back, Jeff Duncan Cladverdun. Is that right? Cladverdun?
No, you're still. It's. Oh my goodness. We'll get into this later off air.
It's Verdonkadonk.
Yeah, which I do have. Which of that I do have.
Seriously,
in spades.
How should we accurately pronounce your last name? You're just not ever going to answer that?
Yeah, no.
Continue to answer. I mean, pronounce it wrong.
I'm gonna mostly coyly. I'm gonna be coy with it.
Why?
Well, I mean, because it's fun.
I mean, you don't want to let us know how to pronounce your name.
Well, I mean, that's not fun.
All right, we're just going to call you Clyde from now. We're never going to bring up your last name.
You call me. I mean, I have acquired.
It shouldn't be this hard. You have 2 syllables.
Well, I mean,
last name.
I've acquired very many nicknames over the course of my life.
So you saying you don't know how to say your last name?
CJ,
is that
Sluggo, Slugster.
It's hard to get an answer.
Sluggo, Slugster, Big Guy,
Sluggo.
So is it really your last name? Did you change it for to protect the innocent?
No, well, I thought about it though, because I mean, clearly I don't know if you guys know this, but I mean, hashtag breaking news. I'm a fugitive on the run. My real name is Carl Johnson.
Are you like Whitey Bulger, the Cajun Whitey Bulger?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Hiding out.
He's
like
secretly known as the Morgan City Menace.
Yes. The Morgan City Marauder. That's clearly what I am. So yes, I have assumed a new name. I have assumed a new life, and this is not how this is going to work. So I am about to be on the run, just like another band that's coming to Jazz Fest, which we were talking about. Steve Miller Band.
How did we get into this? I asked him his last name. How to pronounce his last name, and
clearly alluding to the topic.
Yeah, clearly. I could see how his parents probably wanted to kick him out of the house.
Yeah, for more reasons than this, though. Clearly,
You're a little crafty.
So LSU spring game is this weekend.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about that since Jerry wants to hear more LSU conversation.
No, I don't want to rile up Jerry today. I do not.
Jerry was a good sport.
He was a good sport. He called back after because he heard us at the end of the show read the This Day in Louisiana Sports, which is coming up in the next segment, by the way.
Yes, I'm excitedly anticipating that.
Then we have some good ones today. But yeah, no, Jerry heard us yesterday with our Louisiana Sports today in Louisiana Sports, talking about LSU taking another loss to Tulane in baseball. But LSU spring game obviously this weekend, Saturday. The weather looks like it's going to hold off, so it's going to be a good time. They plan on really blowing it out. I think there's going to be like an autograph session. A lot of things going on tomorrow, so it'll be a good day. But seeing some of the reports from our Andrew Lopez, who's out covering this in the middle of a baseball season, which, by the way, baseball is in action tonight. LSU is on the road to South Carolina. Tulane is at home against East Tennessee State, I believe. Ed Orgeron seemed to like what he saw from his team in the last scrimmage before the spring game earlier last weekend. So it ought to be a very, very interesting and/or very energetic Saturday tomorrow between both sides.
What kind of crowd do you think they'll get?
Well, see, the thing is,
you get a pretty big crowd down there, right?
You get a big crowd, but the thing is, LSU doesn't open in the entire. They tried last year opening the entire bowl. I doubt that they'll do that again. I think this time they're only going to open up one half of Tiger Stadium, probably the west side of the stadium they'll have open, which is facing the Mississippi River and going out. Just because it's not like A-Day, it's not like Alabama's or whatever, or Auburn's or the Ohio State's where they just fill up the place. There's just really no need to, because there's so many other things going on. You got softball going on, tennis, baseball, track, all these things going on at LSU. So it's usually always a big weekend whenever spring games are around. So they'll open up about half of the stadium for it, but it'll be a good crowd because the crowd's into it. I'm sure they will actually scrimmage this year in terms of actually having a full-on offense versus defense, ones versus twos versus ones kind of thing. And from some of the reports that I saw from him earlier this weekend, from last weekend, the offense got hype whenever they did something well. The defense got hype when they were able to stop them. So it ought to be we know how Ed Orgeron likes to do these things: energy, high energy, high tempo. And obviously, it's going to be the first time for fans to see in the flesh Miles Brennan, quarterback, Lil Narcisse, Justin McMillan.
They've seen Miles.
Well, not the first time, but like really an extended period where he's had obviously weeks now with the ones, the twos. Same thing with Justin McMillan and the Lil Narcisse. We're going to see some of the new guys. See how Clyde Edwards-Helaire is doing. It ought to be just a very interesting kind of information gathering day about some of these guys, some of these impact transfers.
Aren't some of these schools like Ohio State and Auburn, maybe Alabama? Don't they get like 100,000 something crazy for their spring game?
A-Day is almost like a rite of passage in Alabama.
What are these people doing, man? What are they doing with their lives?
Well, I mean, what else do you have to do in Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
Practice scrimmage.
What do you have to else do in Columbus? Well, actually, that's actually not true, because obviously the Columbus Blue Jackets are in the NHL playoffs, so you do have something.
Look, I love sports. I'm blessed to be in a occupation where I get to cover sports for a living. But the last thing I want to do is go out and watch a practice in the middle of April when the sport isn't going to actually play for real until September. That stuff drives me berserk. Who cares? I mean, yeah, you want to see some of the depth chart, maneuvers and who's moving up and who's down. I get it. But really? You want to go out there in April and watch a practice for 2 hours?
Well, you realize that this is the last piece of college football that anybody will see until
It's not college football. It's a practice. It's like they're practicing. They're not, it's not a game.
Well, some are actually doing practices because they can't afford to have players get injured, but some are actually doing real games but I mean,
it's playing yourself though. You don't know what to believe. I mean, we used to talk about this a couple of years ago at Saints, a couple of years ago at training camp at the Greenbrier, when the Saints tight ends were having these huge days of practice, and we're talking about the development of the Saint tight ends. We're like, man, they've got incredible tight ends. And then we realized the Saints defense couldn't defend the tight end. That was what we were watching, not how good the Saints tight ends were. It was how bad the Saints defense was in defending tight ends. It's because you can't put it into context because they're scrimmage against each other.
But that's also at the same time, though, I think taking it to a level that does need to be at. I think just like we do with, inter squad scrimmages on the NFL level or these joint practices, what can you really take from any of it? It's not certainly not for you, and it's not for you to be able to say, oh man, we can gather so much from it. Literally, it's an event to have an event. I mean, this is just a way of being able to attract fans to come and see these players that they haven't seen since the last game, and then doing other events around it. But taking it to a different level of saying, man, we're going to be able to gather the entire 2018 offensive line and offensive scheme for LSU football in one scrimmage and practice is a farce. It's heinous. It's not going to happen. And that's where you just allow the entertainment value of something to say, look, if it's an event that you kind of want to see, if you love LSU football or spring football or training camp football that much, cool. But to gather anything from it, inaccurate, and you'd be wasting your time, you're going to go wanting.
All right, we'll take one final break. When we come back, the always exciting, much anticipated, long overdue, this state in Louisiana sports history times, Clyde, it's time to shine.
It's been a day full of shining. I think this has been a great show. Larry, take more days off.
Sir Lawrence will be off again on Monday, so he will take
it's going to be us?
No!
Yes, a 4-day weekend for Sir Lawrence.
It's going to be a long week next week, man. We could probably talk about that, too, in this last break, because it's going to be a long week for all of us.
I think so. All right, Duncan Holder will be back after this break. Listen to Sports 1280. Stay with us.
Near 10 feet tall, here she comes, Lord help us all. OTW's girlfriend done slapped him out his chair. Poor old boy, it ain't his fault. It's so hard not to stare at that honky-tonk, but donk-a-donk.
Their intelligence.
Oh my God!
Thank you. Is not artificial.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Are you serious?
Up to 16 chances at the top of the hour.
I just want $1,000.
Weekdays between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. The Smart Money is on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This week on Big Easy Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Zoo for just $38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Walk, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to FoxSportsAM1280.com. Keyword deals.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better people that want Harmony. Go to eHarmony.com today and get a month free when you buy a 3-month plan. Use code DATE. eHarmony.com. Use code DATE.
The 8th annual Lemonade Day is set to take place Saturday, May 5th. Lemonade Day is a free, fun, experiential learning program that teaches kids how to start, own, and operate their very own business, a lemonade stand. Registration and participation for Lemonade Day are free, and all youngsters are encouraged to participate. To sign up, learn about ways to get involved, or to see a complete list of sponsors, visit lemonadeday.org/Louisiana. That's the 8th annual Lemonade Day on May 5th.
It's time for the Lakeside Kids Expo, April 21st from 10 a.m. to 3. More than 50 vendors showcasing summer camps, schools, kids' activities, fun characters, performances, and more. All at Lakeside Shopping Center, presented by Kids and Family Magazine.
Thank God I'm a country boy. Well, I got me a fine wife, I got me old fiddle. When the sun's coming up, I got cakes on the griddle.
Dunc and Older Now. Eric Asher, next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
All done and the sunset glow. Pull out the fiddle and the rosin up the bow. Kids are
Little John Denver for you on a Country Fried Friday on your social aid and pleasure club of the Sports Talk Radio dial.
Oh, we are absolutely that.
We are definitely that.
By the way,
Clyde.
don't forget we got to watch Southern Charm New Orleans this weekend, Jeff.
Yes, I'm excited about watching Southern Charm.
I can't believe I'm going to watch this show. I'm crazy.
I'm excited about it. I want to see episode 2 and see where it takes us.
Indeed.
I'm not sure where it's going to go, but where this next segment is going to go is right to Clyde and his time to shine with this informative segment that we've started here in the past week or two, this date in Louisiana sports history. So what happened on April 20th in the recent past, or
you
actually the distant past?
Foosball behind my back.
There's your intro. Go.
It's your walk-up music. Sounds like an accordion to me.
Okay.
That sounds like an accordion.
As a professional, as a person who should be respected in this profession, I'm going to continue knowing that I get nothing but heinous acts thrust upon me. So,
I do love you.
On this day, we had a lot of good things today, but on this day, April 20th, 2006.
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
12. I'm a mathematician.
The New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame selected its all-40th anniversary team to commemorate the club's 4 decades in the NFL. The players were chosen to vote by the Hall of Fame Media Selection Committee, which includes local and regional media members who cover the Saints or did so in the past. I think I'm with a person who probably helped with that.
Yes, you do.
The honored players were, on offense, Eric Martin and Joe Horn, receivers, Willie Rofe, Stan Brock, Jim Dombrowski, Jake Cupp, John Hill, Hobie Brenner, Archie Manning, Dalton Hilliard, and George Rogers. That's the offense. On defense, Wayne Martin, Jim Wilkes, Joe Johnson, and Derlin Moore, Sam Mills, Vaughn Johnson, Ricky Jackson, and Pat Swilling, Dave Waymer, and Johnny Poe, Tommy Myers, and Sammy Knight. That's on defense. Specialists, Morton Anderson, Tommy Barnhart, Fred McAfee, Michael Lewis, and Jim Moore was the coach. And on that was on this date in 2006. We had a lot of good things this date, which I will.
So wait, that was 12 years ago. That was the all 40th anniversary team of the Saints.
Team of the Saints.
Okay.
2006.
That's a good one. That's 12 years ago. I didn't realize that was 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy now because we're talking about just passing the 50th season now,
Right.
51st, 52nd season.
Okay, what else you got?
Also on this day, Allen Iverson dropped 55 points as the 76ers to beat the Hornets in the playoff opener in 2003. In 2002, Southern's Roger Cador won his 500th game as head coach of the Southern baseball team.
Great coach.
And that was in
Southern baseball.
2002. And in 1972, former Tulane basketball coach Cliff Wells was inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. And that was this day in Louisiana sports history.
Thanks for that educational segment. We always need to try and inform our listeners, inform the public. It's part of our job. We not only entertain, but we also inform. And that segment will continue to educate and inform our listeners.
Yeah.
You only get that here.
You can only get that here.
And Clyde always delivers it. I love that thing. You know who put that together? I told you, Bob Remy. Bob Remy is one of the true gems in Louisiana sports. I don't know if you're all familiar with Bob, but he's a long-time lead statistician for all the way back to the days of the New Orleans Jazz, was the lead stat guy for the Pelicans and Hornets for a number of years, and also with the Saints. He still does a lot of Saints stats. Bob is basically the foremost New Orleans and Louisiana sports historian in the city. And he does this. I mean, his his house out in Metairie is incredible. It's like a museum of sports.
It's got to be just a treasure trove of different artifacts and finds. It's got to be a really cool place to see.
Yeah, so anything Bob puts together, I mean, you can count on it take it to the bank. He's got stuff. It really is like a museum. You go out there, he's got framed original, like he's got the box score from when Pistol Pete, I think, went off on the Knicks, what he scored, like 68.
That's crazy, yeah.
Something like that. He's got the original game book signed by Pete Maravich, framed on the wall, things like that, I mean, one-of-a-kind items. And Bob's such a humble guy. I mean, he never wants to be in the spotlight, just loves doing that work behind the scenes, but he's got incredible stories because he's been involved in so many great events in New Orleans sports history. So shout out to Bob Remy because he's really the guy, the genius behind this Louisiana sports history.
And this book is full of knowledge. I'm glad we actually found this and we're going to incorporate it into the show. It's awesome.
No doubt. Well, look, we are wrapping up hour 2 here without Sir Lawrence, who will, again, I might point out, will not be back Monday, but we will be back in the saddle. And by that time, we might be talking about, shall I dare venture to guess that the Pelicans might be moving on to round 2 of the Western Conference playoffs?
Starting to hear, I feel like the sweeps of a broom coming through Saturday at about 6:25 p.m.
Get Sean Payton out. Get the broom. Get the video cameras out.
Do the Sean Payton.
Because it is going to happen. The Pels are going to sweep, and they're going to be the first team since the NBA started these 7-game series in the first round back in 2002, the first team as a 6 seed to sweep a 3 seed. And that would be historic. Not only that, but also the fact that they would win their first playoff series of any kind since, what was it?
2008.
2008. All right, I want to thank Fletcher Mackel. I want to thank Mike Triplett. I want to thank Matt Moore as our guest today. Great program, Clyde, Dave. You guys have a great weekend, everybody out there.
You too.
We'll be back with Duncan Holder on Monday. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app.
Follow Sports 80 on Twitter at 1280. Sports 1280. Hashtag the pictures in your Pelicans gear. 1280 does it bigger.
The following call is real. It took place between an OnStar advisor and a member.
OnStar emergency.
I was just rear-ended and I have a child in the car.
Is anyone hurt?
My son says his head hurts.
I have you at Central Avenue.
No matter where you are, you're never alone with OnStar.
I'll bring my partner on the line.
Okay, Miss Bull, I am sending first responders to help. How old is your child? He is 4.
I know this was a scary situation for you, but I'm going to be right here with you.
I'm just so scared for my son right now.
Keep talking to him. Keep him alert.
I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm here for.
An emergency medical dispatch certified advisor is there for you, ready to help, 24 hours a day.
Okay, it looks like the first responders coming out.
Go ahead and speak with them. Please know we are here whenever you need us.
Thank you.
OnStar is available on Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. OnStar. Be safe out there. OnStar advisors certified by International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. OnStar acts as a link to emergency services. Visit OnStar.com for details.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Kevin Durant left last night's win over the Spurs with a sprained ankle. Says he will be fine and ready to go by Game 4. It's just a little swollen at this point. Meanwhile, NFL news. A week from today, we will know who took whom in the top round. Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, says the team may stick with the 6th overall pick or they may move again.
We feel